Pujuin the noe maganadok, anin kage gabo and dishinakas, makenak and dudem, makenak wajawing and dunjaba, besho gakaba kang and danungom, apijigo migwage bizendauye. And what I said there was a traditional Ojibwe protocol greeting. I said hello, all of my relatives. My name is Kage Gabo. I'm Turtle Clan. I'm a descendant of Turtle Mountain. I live close to Minneapolis today, and I wanted to begin by thanking you all for tuning in and listening to this live Ojibwe Word of the Day. I look forward to doing these on Thursday nights, and if you ever take a few moments out of your day to talk about, to discuss, to listen to Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Chippewa, Nakaway, Soto, language, culture, history, spirituality, philosophy, linguistics, ethics, I'm incredibly grateful for that. And tonight's word of the day, it's a topical one, and it's Biboon. Biboon. It is winter. Of course, yesterday was the solstice. It marks the beginning of Biboon, winter, and I thought I would discuss that season and maybe look at what people did, what people did a long time ago as well as today. And maybe we can get some insights into that when we look at the names of the moons, of the months that take place during Biboon, that take place during winter. So Biboon, it's one of 4 seasons. Of course, it's Biboon, it is winter. Zigwan, it is spring. Niben, it is summer. And Dugwagan, it is fall. And there are probably some sister languages to Ojibwe who have very similar names for each one of those seasons. And each one of those names is actually a complete sentence in Ojibwe. These are inanimate and transitive verbs. So you're not just saying winter if you say a word like Biboon. You are saying it is winter. Zigwan, it is spring. And you'll notice that it moves in a circle along with that number 4. So if we look at Biboon, it is characteristically, it begins in the Manadugizasuns, in the little spirit moon. And that's one of the names for December. Of course, there's Gashkadinokizas. That was November, and you could notice that freeze-up took place. The lakes froze over. The rivers froze over. We have a whole bunch of snow right now. Gunaka, Misagogege Gunakak. It is certainly very snowy outside. And it's Gisana. It's also very cold. And so in Manadu Gizasuns, in the little spirit moon, we'll begin the season of Biboon. Now, in some communities, Manadu Gizasuns, the name for December, is interchangeable with the name Gichi Manadu Gizas or Manadu Gizas. And in some communities, Manadu Gizas or Gichi Manadu Gizas, the Great Spirit Moon or the Spirit Moon, is the name they will give to December, and then they will call January Manadu Gizasuns. And so it's just, Anishinaabe Wiking, Ojibwe land is so vast, and there are so many different communities that each one may have its own dialect and way of describing the moons. You know, another name that they'll use for January is also the Abatababunigizis. It's the midwinter moon. So from freeze up to December and getting into January, that will be the Abatababunigizis. And after that comes February. Now, February is very fascinating because there are 4 different names for that moon, at least. And when you look at it, they're so beautiful and they're so descriptive. One is the Webenegegizis. This is the throwing away moon. This is where you throw away your illness. You'll tie a little tobacco pouch, a little tobacco tie at the end of a stick, of a twig. You'll look at the moon when the moon is becoming full and yell out, Newebanon and Dakoziwan, I am throwing away my illness. And then Gokomisanan, our grandmother, will take that illness from us. It's also the Gatakkozidgizis, it's the short moon. It is the Migizigizis, it's the eagle moon. And for the eagles who have migrated, this is when they begin to make their way back up north. And then there's, of course, one of my favorite names. One that profoundly affected me and changed the way I viewed one of maybe the most important spiritual teachings I've learned in the language is Namebenigizis. It's the suckerfish moon. Miuapi, Shoenamad, Inunishinabin. Nameben. This is when the suckerfish took pity. They blessed us and showed us unconditional love. They gave us life. And then after February, of course, comes the Onabanigizis, the hard crust on the snow moon. And you'll notice at this time, there will be so much snow. All of a sudden, there will be a very warm day. It will melt some of the snow. It will freeze at night, and there will become a hard crust on the snow. Bebukwadamigizis is another one. I believe I've heard the snowshoe breaking moon. And so if you're walking on this hard crust on the snow, it's actually sometimes so hard it can break your snowshoes, but it can also make it very easy to hunt, which you may need to do after a very long cold winter. And we're seeing that already. In the very beginning, it is very, here at least in Minnesota, it is incredibly gisana. It is incredibly cold. And it is very snowy. So you would get through that month and begin, of course, the Iskigamisigekis, is the sap boiling moon. And this would bring about Ziguan, spring, the Anishinaabe New Year. And so during these months, these winter months, you will note that it is cold, it is windy, it is snowy, and the sun is not out for very long. Today, the sunset was at 4:35. And so you will have so many nights spent with your family, with your clan, as you were getting bundled up, as you were making it through the winter. And this will give you a lot of time to learn songs, to visit, and then most importantly, what my former Ojibwe professor, Dr. Dennis Jones, called Anishinaabe University. Miuapi Atso Kedawe Anishinaabe. This is when Anishinaabe tells sacred stories to one another. And if you get a really good storyteller, especially in a time before iPhones, before satellite TV, before the internet and computers, for entertainment and for insight and for spiritual guidance and for laughs, to be able to listen to a storyteller who, if they are very good, can maybe begin on that first night of winter and may take you all the way through to the sap boiling time, to the maple sugar processing time. And you'll be able to hear an incredibly wonderful amount of stories that are very enlightening and very entertaining at the same time. And so at the beginning of Biboon, I'm actually doing it in the room where I did a pipe ceremony last night. That's how I like to begin every season. And while I was using my pipe in Dupwagan, I had an opportunity to pray for all of my relatives in Wabanong in the east, in Shawanong in the south, in Ningabianong in the west, and Kiwetanong in the north. And for all of you out there, I had a moment to ask and pray for Begish Sigo Jimino Ayek, Begish Sigo Jimino Manji Oyek, Begish Sigo Jimin Wayne Demeg, Begish Sigo Jimino Sayek. So at the very beginning of this season, with the tobacco, with the asema, with the 4 medicines, I was able to pray for each of you and for all of us for your peace and your well-being, that you have good health, that your thoughts and your emotions are in balance so that you may know true joy, and that we walk along the path of life in a good way that brings back peace and balance to all of our relatives. And on that note, I want to take a moment and say happy winter to you all. Please do stay careful. Dagasa and Guamasik, please all of you, do take care. Be careful. Stay warm. Miigwech Bizendawe, thank you all so much for listening. In the spirit shall decide. We see each other again. Miigwech.